All right, it's another random video, and we have a little guest star. Might be popping up his head once in a while. In the meantime, so anyway, today's topic is about a conversation I had not too long ago. I wonder if you guys can hear me really well. Probably not. So let me fix this real quick. All right, so today's topic is going to be about a conversation I had with somebody not too terribly long ago. And that conversation was about leadership. And I'm going to fix this. Give me 1 second. Let me get this microphone in an appropriate range here. Okay, so that conversation was about leadership, right? And the thing about leadership is we're given these preconceptions of what leadership actually is. And as it relates to the way that we naturally may be, right? So some people are like, oh, I'm not a born leader, or I'm not a natural leader. Well, that's not exactly true. I think everybody has a natural leadership abilities, but leadership is actually a combination of skills. It's not a single thing that makes somebody a great leader. And if you're in the typology community, which you probably are being on my channel, you might associate leadership with a certain personality type that might be quote, in quote, natural, right? Somebody who's really good at leadership might be in the TJ category or the FJ category, right? So somebody that they think are natural leaders because they're judgers, and there's some association with leadership and that. The reality is that that's not actually the case. I think everybody has their own struggles, but some people see leaders as somebody's always in the crowd or extroverted, or somebody who is, just making decisions and controlling people or influencing people in a positive way. The first thing is, when you are in this place where you're questioning what type of leader you are, or if you have leadership abilities at all, is you have to figure out what your archetype for leadership is, right? And your archetype for leadership may actually be something like somebody who can influence people to be held accountable. Or maybe your idea of leadership is intelligence, right? You can lead through intelligence. And that was certainly something that I took advantage of when I was younger. Not saying that I'm intelligent, but I led with intelligence, which means that people followed me because they thought I knew what I was talking about. And of course, it was not the people that I currently would like in my life anymore. It was more about surrounding myself with people that I thought would follow me back then. And we also call that Jesus syndrome, right? So anyway, really crafting leadership starts with identifying your personal idea of what leadership is, right? So leadership is a combination of a few things. And I borrow most of these from people who are very successful leaders, like John Maxwell, who puts the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership in a book, right? And he says, these are the things that comprise a leader. And there's 21 of them. Some of them seem to cross over quite well, but the point is still the same. He's helping define what a leader is. So if it's leadership is something that you wish to accomplish at any point in your life, it's important that you understand what it is you're trying to accomplish, right? You have to define it. And that is true for any goal, regardless of however it is. If that goal is ambiguous, the chances of you accomplishing it are very little. So in the latter half of my 20s, I really focused on creating leaders. I said, okay, I can lead. I've been put in leadership positions. I've led before, and I've always tried to refine my craft in leadership, even though I do type as ENTJ or whatever system you're using. Some people think that's a natural advantage. Certainly I had my challenges, right? And my challenges led off to, okay, first off, I approached people with arrogance, which means that if you look at some of my older videos, you can still see that arrogance portraying in those videos as if I know more than everyone else, right? So this was a hindrance to my leadership development. It's not that I was a natural leader because I type as a certain type. It's because I had my own challenges where people associated my leadership ability was my ability to public speak. So they naturally assumed that I was a leader. Whereas other people knew that I struggled with arrogance, and they saw it as not a leadership quality. And they said that I don't command the way that it appears that I command because I led with arrogance instead of leading with humility, right? So The thing is, once you have that crystal clear and go, well, this is what a leader is, you'll find that it's probably multiple qualities. It's not just one thing. And then you can start conceptualizing, okay, that's why I don't think I'm leaders, because I'm thinking it's this group of ideas, right? So you want to expand that, because people can lead in all kinds of different ways. Any personality type can be a leader. I've mentioned this in many videos in the past. I've mentioned this numerous times. And I mean, all throughout, I've always been an advocate for leadership. And I've mentioned this so many times on what it exactly is, that any type can be a leader, right? So if you take the traditional stereotype of, say, ISFP, right? And we're just using the stereotype as an example. And that person is they lead with this value decision making. You'll find that a lot of those people are going to be followed on principle, right? They are followed because people trust them and believe in them. Right? Then we're talking about the stereotype. I'm not talking about all ISFPs. I'm talking about the stereotype, the archetype of what we think, or what you may think an ISFP is. Whereas other people may not follow them because they may be challenged in areas of logical reasoning. So is this person a leader or not? Well, according to some, they are, and according to others, they're not, right? So this is what I'm saying, is you want to clarify why you think you can't lead, right? Why you think you struggle with leadership. And it's a skill that you have to continue to work on. It's something that I read all the time. I study it all the time, and I go, okay, how can I lead better today? How can I create better leaders today? And the one thing I keep coming across is, if I want to create a better leader, I have to be a better leader myself. Okay, that's just the law. That's the way it works. You can't continue to attract people that even have leadership potential if you don't become a better leader yourself. So I'm always finding new ways to improve those leadership skills and say, how can I lead somebody into the next level, right? And I understand that I'm not going to have all the answers for everyone. So I actually encourage them to have multiple leaders or multiple people they're following. That way they don't really struggle with the idea that, they struggle with the idea that they're maxed out, or this person can only get me so far. I always recommend you have multiple mentors and multiple people teaching you certain aspects, right? So really get that clear in your head. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. This is how I'm going to get better as a leader every single day. It's about producing consistent actions, consistent little actions that lead to the big results. See, the problem is when we do goal setting with our team, or with our people, or with our followers, or with ourselves, is we make these goals so big that they become impossible to take down, right? So you have to lead with your own life in a way where you're like, okay, I am failing to lead my own life because I'm not finding balance in this area. I'm setting my goals too vast, and they're ambiguous, right? They're so large that I can't take this down at a time. It's like saying, okay, your income is $50,000 a year. This is just an example. If your income's $50,000 a year and your next goal is, okay, 3 million, how am I going to get there? Well, come on. You need to make little consistent steps, and then you need to do the math. And the math is pretty straightforward, right? How do I get that extra income? What is going to be required for me to do that? So producing those things and those little consistent results is what's going to make you better as a leader. A few books I recommend is going to be The Slight Edge, or The Compound Effect. It's about little actions that add up every single day that ultimately pay off big in the end, right? That's what it's about. It's about compounding. It's just like interest, or ways that you can make money by investing or whatever. So really, compounding in your leadership skills is what I really want to focus on, right? So one of the most important leadership laws is the law of the lid. It's actually the first leadership law in John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. The law of the lid is basically, you can put in all the effort you want, but if you don't raise your leadership lid, then you're going to run into problems. And that leadership potential is what gives you the results you want, right? You can put in a 10 on the success dedication, right? It's a 10. Like, I'm going to max myself out. I'm going to give it 100% effort, but I'm not going to work on my leadership skills. Then you're just not really going to get a lot done. Really. So a lot of people, throughout my life ask me how I get so many things done. It's because I have a lot of success dedication, and I keep raising that. I don't want to say I have a lot, but I keep raising that leadership lid, so more gets produced. And right now that may seem conceptual to you. it may seem like, okay, I really understand you have 24 hours in a day. I don't understand. Well, one thing I tell you is that I have become really good at delegating. But I ask, hey, here, can you take care of this? Or can you take care of that? Or how can you take care of this? Or could you do this? And people tend to want to do those things. Why? Is because there's a series of people that see the ability that I've developed over time in leadership, right? And it's just becoming a better leader every day. Not, hey, how do I measure up to this type of leader? Or how do I measure up to this type of leader? It's not measuring yourself up to some icon. It's about looking at yourself and going, am I a better leader today than I was yesterday? And you do that every day for 365 days, right? And I always say, get 1% better every day. Let that compound over time and figure out where you are in 10 years, right? What kind of leader are you going to be? The biggest challenge that I had when I was younger was I felt like I had a clock. Okay, there was a clock. And I rushed everything. I said, if I'm not a leader today, then I'm not going to do anything. So I was in it for the short term. I started originally in network marketing at 20 years old. And I don't know if you guys know what that is, but this video is not going to be about that. Anyway, I started with that, and it's a heavy personal growth industry. And although I did have a little bit of what they call natural leadership, I was in it for the short term. It was like making my goals so large that I couldn't accomplish them. And when I would get discouraged because I couldn't accomplish my goals because they were so large, there was no way to actually get them done. And so it's just like in dreamland. I was in it for the short term. I didn't look at it like the only thing you can control is getting better every day, right? And leading people every single day. See, there's the guest star right there. Boom, boom. Anyway, leading people every single day and getting better at it and better at it and better at it. So the question is, if you are striving to be a better leader, regardless if you're a manager right now, if you just work for yourself, or you're just you don't have a team right now, but you want to have a team, or you're starting in network marketing, or you're starting a home-based business, or you're starting any kind of business, the main thing is what you're doing right now allowing you to develop the skills that you want to develop to travel the road that you want to travel to get to where you want to be, right? So if you're doing something right now and say it pays your bills, okay, and whatever job it is or whatever thing it is, great, it pays your bills. That's helping you, right? Getting to where you need to go. But the challenge is, are you able to practice the skills that you want, right? How do you practice leadership when you don't have anybody around? How do you practice leadership when you're still working for someone else and you don't have a team? How are you able to do that? Well, you got to go outside of that and go, okay, I want to become a better leader and I want to have my own business and I want to have a team of people that work for me or whatever. And you need to start building that type of work. You need to start practicing your leadership skills outside of your job. If you don't have that opportunity in your job, you have to create the opportunities. As I've gotten older, I limit my excuses now. I am aware of where my shortcomings are every day. I know where my shortcomings, and starting another business, which is what I'm in the process of right now, I'm seeing my mind create excuses, right? I can't really do this because this, and I see my mind just throwing them out there. And I'm like, okay, that's BS. You can do this. What are you talking about, right? Don't overcomplicate it. Stop making it impossible. Stop making this impossible. And that comes from goal clarification, right? What is the challenge? Where is my biggest issue? What am I afraid of? What excuse am I creating today? I have a bunch of other terrible qualities, like they're really abrasive and they're rude to people and they treat people like crap. Okay, they're going to not be seen as a leader because they have too many negatives. The negatives outweigh the positives, right? So when you're looking at yourself and evaluating yourself and going, am I a good leader? Well, look at the things that you do, right? Like, are you good at what you do? Yes, that's a leadership quality. Being actually skilled at what you do is a leadership quality. Being good at what it is you do is important. It builds respect. It builds, hey, look, I could be a credible source, right? For that information, and people are going to want to listen to it. See, although I'm not particularly a fan of this digital age, and maybe I'm just old school, I don't know. I'm not a terrible, huge fan of it. I think there's a lot of problems. I do think there's a huge advantage, though, is you can instantly find information and get better at what it is you need to do. You can instantly start building up some kind of following, right? You can go, okay, if I'm good at this thing, and people are going to look for me and look for this information. I mean, so they're going to find it, right? So they're going to find my stuff or your stuff or whatever you're creating, and they're actually going to pursue it and create it and make it good and make it better. And hey, look, here's some feedback. Here's what you need to do. So you're going to get better. They're going to get better. They're taking in your information. And this happens on such a fast scale, right? So sometimes it feels like you're never going to be a good leader because everything's just moving so quick that you're dropping the ball so much faster than you would, like, I don't know, 30 years ago, right? You're just like, oh crap, I went through this flow a lot quicker and I have to do the whole cycle over again. Well, that's where I'm at right now too myself. It's like, I've got to go back and do this for the long term, right? Having a long-term strategy is one of the biggest learning lessons I've taken all my life, is going in everything with a long-term strategy. I do this with everything now. I do it with my investments. I do it with my finances. I do it with the way that my skills are. I do it with my leadership. I do it with all kinds of things. I'm doing it for the long term, right? I don't believe in getting rich quick. I don't believe that you should try to do anything expedited and miss out on the valuable lessons that are yielded to you. And my personal belief system has interfered with that a lot, because in the end, a lot of that doesn't matter. But like I said, I have enjoyment in doing this. There's the fun factor, right? Which is what you have to do to align. When I say evaluate what you're currently doing, is it fulfilling what you need right now? Is it giving you what you need right now? Is your current role, the things that you do on a daily basis, contributing to your long-term goal of becoming a better leader, better manager, better technician, better job at whatever you want to do? Is it contributing to things? So let's go back. Let's recap real quick. You collect a bunch of positives that are leadership qualities. You're good at a skill. You can build friends easily. You have high integrity. These things are positives, right? Now, if you were to remove all the negatives, you'd be a leader naturally. Because you know what? How many people can you find today that don't have, or how many people can you find today that have a lot of integrity? Probably not very many. So you already are singled out. Oh, there you go. There's one positive. Now you're actually good at what you do too. That's two, right? Now you add in the negatives, right? You have these negative things like you can be abrasive, you can be rude, you can be whatever. You start throwing these negatives, and all of a sudden your leadership's overall evaluation, you're evaluated a lot less than other people that could be seen as good leaders, right? So that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying, you can theoretically yield some. Let's say that you're a techie, right? And you're terrible with people, but you're really, really good at what you do. You're so good at it, and people don't know that you're good at it. Now you start producing content, right? And you start saying, this is how things are taken care of. People are going to start following you. That's just the reality of the situation, right? So the idea is that once you start building, you can see people are following you because you've taken that weakness and you've just turned it into a non-talent, because when you're creating content, it's not interactive, right? So people aren't really talking with you. And once you started recognizing like, hey, I'm not really great with people, and you're open about it, guess what? That adds another leadership quality, which is, look, you're honest, you're showing vulnerability. Now you're showing vulnerability and you're good at what you do. So these are adding more leadership features like, oh, wow, this guy's actually humble. He has humility. He's always learning, right? Still not good with people, but man, look at all these qualities, right? Now, if you read like Steve Jobs' biography, and then you compare it to what some people's reports of Steve Jobs were, some people will say he was really rude to people. And sure, maybe he was, but he's still considered one of the greatest CEOs of all time, right? So why though? Vision, right? Vision was certainly there. So there's a lot of reasons why, right? So hold on one second. All right. So anyway, point is, so you have a lot of options. That's what I'm saying. And don't limit yourself. Don't go, I'm a bad leader. I'm not even going to try it. Well, you know what? There's the one thing I learned in all business, right? Regardless of what the model was or what the vehicle was, and was that failure is not the ultimate failure. It's funny that we coin it that way. You failed. Well, it's not really the ultimate failure, right? The ultimate failure is quitting, right? That's the failure. failures aren't actually failures. They're learning lessons. Now that sounds cliche, right? It's like, oh, wow, well, yeah, I mean, sure, but you still failed. Yeah, maybe you did, but the ultimate failure is quitting. People don't fail, really. They quit, right? That's where the failure goes. If you start a business, you realize it's too hard, you quit. If you're a leader, you only fail when you quit, right? That's the failure. It's not, yeah, you may fail, you may make mistakes, and you may lose some of those leadership points in that evaluation. People are like, wow, that guy's not really a great leader. Sure. Okay. But with time, you can get back up and do it again. But if you quit, you're going to stay down there, and you really, truly have failed. So that's important to keep in mind, that as you're developing your skills, you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to have moments where you're like, wow, I failed. Well, yeah, you did, but you're not a failure, right? You're never going to be a failure. You can't associate yourself with a failure. Like, that's an adjective that defines not a person, but an event, right? That event was a failure. And this is part of that development. Okay. Understanding that those leadership principles and understanding that you accept failures, that's going to help. That's what's going to help you get a wow. Okay. So I say fail a lot, fail forward, fail all the time. Don't purposely set out and fail, but be not afraid of failure, right? And continue forward. And that's one of the things that I'm really focused on now, is like, who out there on the existence of this YouTube is ready to take it to the next level? Who out there is ready to take what you're doing today, whatever that is, and go, you know what? I'm unsatisfied. I am unsatisfied with where I am right now. And I'm not saying miserable, but unsatisfied, right? And going, why am I unsatisfied? If you are unsatisfied, reach out to me. Tell me why. In fact, if you're watching this video, I'm going to type my email address in here. My email address is now in this chat because I want to hear your story. I want to hear why you're unsatisfied. I want to hear the best story. You can do it in a video form, just record a video, or you can do it in a text form. Send me an email. I don't really care. Just send me something. Send me a link. You don't even have to type anything. Just shoot me a link. I'll watch the video, right? Or if you want to do an audio recording, I don't care how you do it. I want to know the story, right? Right now, there's not a lot of people watching this video because it's late, and I understand that. But when you do get to this point, shoot me that particular message. I want to see why you're unsatisfied. What gets under you, right? What is bothering you? What is putting you at the position you're in today? I'll tell you, I'm unsatisfied with a lot of things, and I know why, right? I'm standing in my own way in a lot of ways. I've learned a lot of skills in my life. Yeah, I've went through a whole bunch of crap, right? I've learned a lot of skills. And yeah, I'm hard on myself. I beat myself up all the time. I shouldn't, but I do. And that's one of my failures, right? Like, yeah, you gotta relax, man. You gotta realize that you're only this age, and you've already done all this. And this is how I have to talk to myself sometimes. Like, what are you doing? Why are you beating the crap out of yourself sometimes? And it's frequent for me. It's a frequent pattern. Like, you could do more. You could do more. So this is the other end of the pendulum, which is like too much. Relax and realize that this is a process, right? And there's that in one of the leadership qualities, law of process, right? That's leadership quality number 3 in John Maxwell's book, law of process, right? Which essentially says respect the process. You know, one of the things I do for a living is I train salespeople, right? And I train them how to become better at sales. And understanding the process is one of the hardest things that people have. It's like they want to go from 0 to hero overnight. And even though they may get a big sale pretty quickly when they first come off a training program or get lucky, it's not a consistent result they can produce, right? So there's that. They're not respecting the process. They think they've already passed or graduated with a few repetitions, and then have already graduated because they got a big sale. That's not how it works. It's going through every step and mastering the little things and doing the little things consistently so you can expect consistent results, right? You want to have consistency. The answer to a lot of these problems is consistency. It's not about doing it maximum and doing it all the time. It's being consistent. You take somebody who spends 30 minutes a day and practice guitar every single day, maybe one day off a week, but they do it every single day. what you're going to find is that that person is probably better than the person who does 3 hours at a time once a month, right? Because there's no consistency. It's not forming the proper brain pattern to consistently do that without problems. So this is why I promote consistency. So if your goal is, whatever your goal is, if you're an employee, you're a business owner, whatever it is you're trying to do, are you doing the things that you need to be doing on a daily basis, right? The things that you need to be doing, are you doing them on a daily basis? Probably not. You know you need to do them, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to do that on Tuesday, right? And then you're like, I could probably wait till Wednesday. And then next thing you know, it's like, man, I really don't want to do that. And that's what I'm talking about when I say consistency. You got to be consistent. That's what's going to produce results. Little things, little tiny things over time is what's going to give you what you need. So again, if you have a story and you're unsatisfied, I want you to tell me and share that with me through my email, or through you send me an email with text, or send me a video or an audio file, or even some kind of snippet, something, so that way I can hear your story, because it's going to help me too. This is not just about, learning from you guys, which I like to get to know my audience at times, but this also helps me, because the one thing I've challenged with my whole life is caring about little things, right? And mainly when it pertains to people. And I've always found that small talk was real painful. And although it can yield important information, I found it pretty painful. I try to get cut to the chase, right? And part of me has accepted that that's me, right? But you can't allow this non-talent to become a weakness. And so there's a point where you got to go, okay, how can I position myself and work with my strengths and allow my non-talent to be a non-talent, and realize, okay, how do you make this work in your life, right? What do you need to do? So by you guys interacting with me and sending me stuff and letting me know how you feel about certain things in your life, whether you want to get detailed or not, that's up to you. But please, I encourage you to send me whatever it is, because that way it helps me pay attention to what's going on with you as well. It's going to help me. So this is your chance to contribute back to me, if you want, right? And I'm not asking for money. I'm asking for your story. That's what I really want to hear, is what is your story? What is it you're unsatisfied about? How did you get to be in the position you're in today, right? What is it you're struggling with? What is it you're unsatisfied about? And what's your current plan to change it? And do you think that plan is a great plan or not? Evaluate your own plan, right? Okay, so I'm going to repeat this back so we can have a firm understanding of what I'm looking for in this. Your current struggles, right? How you got there, your current plan, and your evaluation of that plan. If you can send all that right there, that's going to be a big step for you, because you've recorded it. Now you can hold yourself accountable, right? So whether you've recorded it in text or you recorded it in video, doesn't matter. You have it written down. This is what I see as the problem, right? This is the plan, because a lot of you are keeping it in this cloud in your head, right? A lot of you are doing that. And as I've coached people through this, they're keeping it in this nebulous cloud of like, hey, I have problems, but they're really cloudy about it. Nothing's clear, right? Now I'm sitting here asking a lot of questions, trying to sort through it for you. Like, I'm trying to sift through and trying to find the core issue. Even on my business consults, I'm asking questions like, well, okay, how did you get there? Or how did you get there? Or what does that mean? Or when you say this, what does that mean? Or when you say that, what does that mean? I'm trying to get deeper into what it is that I'm trying to solve for. A lot of people will schedule a consult with me and not have an idea of really what they want to accomplish. Not that it's a problem. I don't mind doing it, but this is the same thing that's being translated to you solving your own personal issues as well, or your issues in business, or your financial issues, or whatever else is like, it's ambiguous. It's this big monster that you can't figure out, right? And you're like, it's just, I'm broke. Well, okay, I understand that might be a problem for you. How did you get there, right? How did you get there? And then what is your plan to get out? And what do you think of your plan to get out? Do you think it's possible? Do you think you can do it? Do you think you can actually push through and make it happen, right? So the reason, and I'm going to pivot back because most of my audience is typology. So I'm going to do a quick pivot here, and I'm going to let you guys know how this ties in. If you're still watching this video, if you're not, that's fine. I'm going to make this rather quick for you. Is typology is a huge help for me. Typology was absolutely important for me because it taught me to, so it taught me to recognize my weaknesses. It taught me to recognize things I was challenged with. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to argue with you because you don't understand the functions. I mean, sure, I did argue with people because I got really into it for a while, but that's not my original motive, right? And I believe that's not most of our original motives getting into it, right? So we need to take it back to the basics and realize, what the hell are we doing? Now, some of you may be researchers and want to really get into the Jungian stuff. That's fine. But when you really look at it, most of us have the answer. Out of probably 500 typing sessions, I've probably typed over 500 people with MBTI. I don't do that service so much anymore. I can, but I really don't. But when I typed that many people, there was a consistency there, right? And that consistency was, why? I always asked, why? What got you into this? What are you really looking to accomplish, right? And they said, well, I want to get to know myself better. Okay. So whether or not we came up with the appropriate type for that person, the person was generally satisfied with their type. And do you know why? Because in the process, they got to learn themselves. By working with me, it was me cutting through a lot of the excess, right? A lot of the excess, which was all these ambiguous thoughts and making things crystal clear. It became real for them, right? And I'm not saying that I have 100% accuracy in typing. No, I don't. I don't know you. I mean, it's like asking a bunch of questions and letting you decide what your type was professionally, right? Okay, well, does this make sense or this makes sense, right? It's like two sides of a coin. Whether you believe in that model or not, it's not important, but through that process, that person got to understand themselves better and why they do what they do, right? So there is a leadership law in Maxwell, and I'm pivoting back now. And I like to share a lot of my struggles because I feel like it humanizes me in a lot of ways. So one of my struggles has been law of connection, right? And that's a tough, I've been hit with this very large disadvantage in life. I have a lot of advantages, don't get me wrong, and also have a very large glaring disadvantage. That large glaring disadvantage is connecting with people. My mind has always been very fast paced, get to the point, don't waste my time. And what is it that you want to talk about? Because when people start telling long stories, I start zoning out. I don't want to hear all the details. I just want to get to the point. What are you talking about? How are you going to get there? You're giving me way too much information, right? And I don't need all that. Just get to what are you trying to say, right? And this is the problem, because some of those details are important to those people. So this is one of my negatives as a leader, right? Something I've really had to fight quite a bit myself and going, okay, this is coming out as a weakness because I'm not getting to know my people. I'm not getting to know these people and the things that are important to them, although it may not be important to me, right? I don't really care if you know my dog's names. I don't really care if you know anybody in my life's name. I don't care if you know my favorite color, my favorite food. None of that matters to me, right? So naturally, I projected that out. Naturally, I projected that out, and I didn't think anybody else cared if I asked them about that or not. But that's not true, right? You realize that people do care. They care about talking about their families and their whatever, right? For me, it's like business, right? So when I first joined network marketing when I was 20 years old, I thought that it was going to be a cakewalk because I'm like, okay, so here, me as a dumb 20-year-old, I'm like, let's just get everybody in my business, right? Because that's what I enjoy is talking about business, right? So I'm like, I enjoy it. So, hey, guess what? I can go get everybody in my business and we can all be friends and have a good time together while making money. This is asinine. It's completely absurd. It's dumb in a lot of ways by having this mentality. Now, granted, I learned a lot from after the fact, but that's not how other people connected, right? So this was a big glaring hole in my understanding of leadership, which was law of connection, right? And when you're working with people, that's a pretty important one, is being able to connect to them. And I realized that with time. So that's where one of the biggest glaring things for me were. And when I evaluated a bunch of leaders, I taught a leadership course probably 3 months ago. I probably had, 30 people in the class. I taught this leadership course. And in that course, a lot of people didn't have that problem. They all didn't have a problem with connection. And then I would ask people around the room, right? I'd say, hey, tell me how law of connection is visible in your life. And I'm just like, dang, I wish I could do that. I'm so in awe of people who are able to do that, right? And I'm just like, wow, that's impressive. Like, how do you do that? How do you teach yourself to care about those little things? And then with time, I've started to learn, okay, this is important to this person. So stop trying to limit the ability to get to know that person, because those important things are what defines their needs, wants, and don't wants in life, right? And you really want to solve people's problems when you're in sales, whatever your product or service is. You want to solve problems. So I think it's important that we really get to that point where we can lead, but it really comes down to mastering those principles, right? It's like, how many can you master? And you're not going to be good at all those laws of leadership. So I'm going to type it in the chat, 21 irrefutable leadership by John C. Maxwell. So it's in the chat now. I've just typed it in there. That's a book you're going to want to read, because it will give you kind of the principles of things that you should work on with time, right? But I really do think everybody has leadership potential. I can't think of a single person who will open that book and score bad on every single leadership law. I just think that's insane. You're not going to run into that problem, right? You're just not going to find people who are going to score terrible on each one. There's a test in the back of the book, right? You can open it up and score yourself on every single leadership law, and you can go, wow, okay, I'm really not as bad as I think, right? So when a lot of people, they come up to me and they'll ask, like, well, do you think I'm a good leader? Well, what do you think, right? I think you're a good leader, but that's according to my definition. And my definition, of course, has expanded. So the answer is generally yes, right? Do you have the potential to lead? Yes. Are you the best you could be? No, you're not. But that's okay, because I'm not. No one is, right? We can always get better every day. But we recognize where we fall short is a big step, right? We recognize our strengths too. Patting ourselves on the back is sometimes important, not in the sense of being boastful, but recognizing where we can actually add value, because we have different strengths. We have different past. We have things that created a lot of the persona that we're giving others, or a lot of the gifts that we're giving others through our leadership examples, right? So different ones in that book, you'll find that be like, wow, that totally is me. So yeah, you have that leadership potential, right? You can be a leader. You are a leader already. It's just limiting your weaknesses and getting them to be just non-talents instead of weaknesses, right? Don't get them working against you. Keep them in the neutral, right? Just got a question here. It is, what's your recommendation for finding your leadership style as an introvert? So this is an interesting one. The first question I'd ask is, how are you introverted, right? There are introverts who are extremely social. Sounds kind of contradictory, right? Who are very good at social skills. And then there are introverts who are terrible at social skills. There's extroverts who are great at social skills, and then there's extroverts who are terrible at social skills, right? So how you direct and receive energy isn't necessarily pertaining to your ability to socialize, right? So that's the first question I'd ask, is how are you introverted, right? How are you? Is it that you don't have social skills, right? Or is it that you are drained by people? Because the truth is, I think we're all drained by people. The wrong people. I'm drained by long stories. It doesn't matter who it is. If it's a long story, you're going to drain me. It's cut to the chase, get the stuff, get to the point. And if you're telling a long story, you're going to drain me. That's just bottom line, and I love crowds. I love being around groups of large people who are all getting to the point, right? But you start goofing off and we're getting off task. That's draining to me. So we got to keep in mind that it's all based on how you define introvert. So to answer your question, though, I'm going to answer both of them because I don't know what your response is, right? So the first one is that you are not good at social skills. Well, if you want to lead, you get better at social skills. That's pretty straightforward, right? Well, I don't know if I can do that. Yes, you can. Stop creating excuses, right? Can you communicate? Yes. Can you don't need to create excuses, because you can get better. It's a flow, right? if I'm going to talk to you, this is a monologue, so it's a little different. It's a little awkward talking to a camera. I'm not really actually talking to anybody. I'm looking at myself. It's like I'm talking to myself, right? But talking in the mirror, rather, because I literally see myself right here. So, but if I'm talking to a person, it's going to follow a flow. What does that person care about, right? What's in it for them? What's in this conversation for them? Do I want to entertain them? Do I want to get to know them? Or do they have a problem I can solve and I can help them? Or do they just want me to listen? Do they need to just vent and I just need to sit and listen, right? So there's a flow to this. And whatever it is, generally, it requires you to shut up and them to speak, right? And this is true for sales. This is true for anything, right? It's like, okay, you be quiet and let them speak. Let them get whatever they need to get out and let them pour it out and figure out where they're going, right? Where are they taking this conversation? What is the message that they're trying to deliver? Because language is not actually communication. It's encapsulating communication. And what I'm saying is there's a meaning that they're using words to capture to communicate that to you, right? So your job is to decode that message and actually extract the meaning, right? The words are just words to define an idea or a concept they're encapsulating in language, right? So our job is to figure out what that meaning is. And I say this in sales training a lot, is what are they actually saying versus what they said, right? What is this person actually trying to tell you, not what they said? And that's important because 3, 10, 20, 100 people can hear the same message and totally get different meanings out of it, right? So that's part of the decoding process. Now it's really up to the sender to send a message that can be decoded. Don't encrypt it in some language that people don't understand. But the idea is that as the decoder, if you stop and think, before I just naturally decode this message and try to get their meaning or react emotionally, what am I going to withdraw? What is the meaning behind it? And actually, what is this person trying to communicate? So it's important that you don't insert your own assumptions, right? And we all make this mistake in communication. And I'll get back to answering this question for just a second. So don't think I forgot about you. But the answer is, what are we extracting in communication, right? What are we getting out of this? And we have to ask questions. We can't insert these assumptions that this is actually what this person is trying to say. So sometimes, especially if it's not, most communication is nonverbal. So if you're doing this on the phone, it's going to be a little bit different, right? If you're doing this on the phone, if you're communicating to a friend on the phone or through text message, it's all going to be different, right? On the phone, I don't even think people talk on the phone anymore. If they do, it's rare. But on the phone, especially millennials, most communication is nonverbal, right? In person, most communication is nonverbal. Text, there is no nonverbals. Well, there is, but it's a little bit different. There's things like symbols and emojis and all this crap that kind of relay the message in a weird way. But the idea is that most communication is nonverbal. If I tell you that I'm miserable, but I'm smiling, you're going to believe that I'm not miserable, regardless of what I'm saying, right? So when it comes to actually being in a position in which you are decoding these messages, you are actually trying to ask questions instead of insert your own assumptions, because sometimes you'll see a mismatch between the nonverbal and the verbal. And then you go, okay, when you say this, what do you mean? Instead of going, hey, okay, I got your meaning immediately, right? So it's always good to recap what you heard, right? I heard this, right? So if I understand you correctly, this is what you've said to me. This is what you've communicated to me, and communicate it back in the way that you translate that message. And then they'll find out that you heard them or not, right? Acknowledging that person. So the other part of it is that you're drained by people, which is this introverted thing, right? I'm drained by people and I can't lead. Well, yes, you can. A lot of great leaders out there are drained by people. They're so drained by people that they don't even want to associate with people. The truth is, and I'm going to cut to the chase here. If you don't like people, you're never going to lead people, right? If you're just drained by people because you're just drained by people and you wish you could be with people and you wish you wouldn't be drained by people, don't wish that. Figure out how to take that weakness and saying, man, I can't be around people very long, I get drained, and make it a non-talent versus a weakness, right? So the question I ask is, who are you spending time with, right? Who are you spending time with? Because if you're spending time with the wrong people, you're going to get drained a lot faster. If you're spending time with the right people and they charge you up in a way and you're going, wow, that kind of opened my mind, then that is important for you, especially if you're introverted, because you're going to get drained a lot faster. You actually lose energy regardless of who you're around. You're going to start losing a little bit of energy, right? So you want to certainly associate yourself with people that drain you a lot less, right? Secondly, even if you are drained, you capitalize on your strengths, right? You can still lead, and people will respect you, even though you may say, you know what, I don't mean to look like I'm checked out or rude, or if I say something abrasive, I certainly don't mean to ruffle your feathers or make you feel like you're not valued. I just want to throw that out there for you, because I can come off that way, because the reality is I do get very drained in conversation, and I'm working through it. And that level of humility and that level of self-awareness also fosters trust in you as a leader. Okay, because you're being self-aware enough to admit your downfall, right? You admit where you might have a problem, and you just may apologize in advance, and for example, right? But all that being said, you can find your leadership style. Pick up the book I recommend, right? The book I recommend is 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, John C. Maxwell. I probably read it 6 months ago for the third time. But the point is, the more you go through this thing, the more that you're able to look at these laws and go, wow, okay, that's what defines a leader. You'll find that it really doesn't have a lot to do with being introverted or extroverted. You'll find that it's not about being either, right? Leading people comes from a very serious line of principles. This is what the principles are, right? This is what we need to accomplish. This is what I need to accomplish and get better at. So you rate yourself and go, this is how I'm going to improve that. What strategies can I improve to respect the process more and become a better leader, right? Hopefully that answers that question and really gets down to helping you identify that don't see introversion as a weakness, because in fact, I think some introverts can be better leaders than extroverts easily, because extroverts can talk before they think, and they say a lot of stupid crap. Trust me. I mean, these whole videos I'm not thinking about, I'm just talking. And if I'm like, I'll correct myself if I hear myself say something stupid. But, you know, there's problems with extroversion. And that problem is you speak before you think a lot. It's just like, I'm not thinking, I'm just going to speak and think out loud, and everybody's going to hear what I have to say. And then I'm going to be like, that was dumb. I shouldn't have said that. So getting back to the core message here is define what it is that's holding you back, right? Define what it is that is holding you back in leadership. Define what makes an actual leader, not, hey, this is what society deems as a leader, right? We're all given these icons and superheroes and historical figures of people who are leaders, and we paint them in these ways that we start looking at the same leadership qualities, right? Abraham Lincoln is often typed as an introvert and looked at like an introvert, and most people, I think, in the typology type him as INTP. In my opinion, he was one of the greatest leaders of all time. All right, and you know, studying his life, he made a ton of mistakes, right? And he was persistent, but he was well-spoken, and he was diplomatic as crap, right? He had these capabilities that made him a great leader. And regardless of his downsides, he was able to leverage his strengths and position himself to where a country would follow him to the end, right? So it's important that we look at these things and people who have similarities in things like introversion or whatever, right? Other than that, I think that we just need to stay consistent on your goals, right? I'm going to probably do another video another time about goal setting. So goal setting is super important, and it's about setting small, realistic goals versus setting these astronomical goals that are very ambiguous, right? Which is like, I hate being cliche here, but let's say a SMART goal, right? It needs to be specific, it needs to be measurable, it needs to be attainable, realistic, and time-based. If you can have a SMART goal, right, it really helps clarify what it is you're trying to accomplish and when you're going to accomplish it by. And if you do that, then you're going to have some kind of particular method of getting there, right? Figure out the what first. That SMART goal is the what. This is what it is, right? And then you have the how, right? So instead of going, I'm going to lose 100 pounds, right? You're going to go, every week, I'm going to lose 2 pounds. I'm going to aim to lose 2 pounds, and that's roughly 7,000 calories. I need to have a 7,000 calorie deficit. Now, my body does weird crap, so I may not lose 2 pounds every week, but one thing for sure is I'm going to have a 7,000 calorie deficit every week. That means I'm going to have to burn X amount of calories on the treadmill. I'm going to have to eat less here. I'm going to find out what my basal metabolic rate is. I'm going to go to the gym X amount of days per week. I'm going to make sure that I'm doing this. I'm going to start off with a basal metabolic test. I'm going to find out what that my core metabolism is, and then my exercise metabolism, and I'm going to add all that up and figure it out. Now, do you have to get that scientific? No, but you could if you wanted to, and if it helps you to get that specific, great. The more specific you are, the more realistic all these goals become, right? Problem is, most people say, I'm going to go on a diet, but they don't have clarity, right? So they want people to write them a meal plan so they can just follow it because it's clear, right? It's clear. So you have to have clarity in your goals if you really want to accomplish them. If you just have this ambiguous, well, I'm going to get better at what I do. Well, what's better, right? So typing people, same thing. I ask questions. I dug deep to find out and get clarity on what it is. And oftentimes you don't have to provide people a solution. You just get them clarity and they can figure out the solution on their own. People aren't stupid, right? People aren't dumb. If you give them clarity, generally they can figure out the problem on their own. Now, sometimes they don't have the right vehicle to solve the problem, right? Sometimes they don't have the right method. Sometimes they don't have the know-how, but a skill is a lot easier to fix than a belief issue or an identity issue or a ambiguous issue, right? Got another question here. It says, I'm an ESTP and I always have a short-term memory with misplacing things. Is this a common thing? No. But I will tell you that memory is not associated with type. It's common with people who, they may be distracted by other things. They may be focused on other things. They're not paying attention to their environment. I would suggest that you would spend time meditating and become more aware of your surroundings. Whether your meditation is sitting on a rock and being peaceful, or meditating in daily life by being present, right? Focus on your breath, focus on the present moment. Stop thinking about things, right? Problem is we get in our heads and we think too much. We're overanalyzing too much. We're like, oh man, all this and all that and all this and all that and all this. And we're just completely oblivious to the moment that we're living in right now, right? Why do our thoughts require so much of our attention, right? And so that's important to figure out, right? Why do our thoughts give us all these attention? It's not that you have a memory issue. It's you don't want to overanalyze. You don't want to give the thought so much power. And this is a different subject, but I doubt you have a memory issue. I think you're focused on things that probably really don't matter in the long run. You're overanalyzing. You're probably thinking about things that you wasting time thinking about, right? And maybe you'll get past it, but you have to have a plan, right? So if you're focused on a bunch of things in your head, you need to spend more time in the present moment and be focused on what's going on around you, being aware of everything. This is what's happening. This is what I need to do. This is what I need to go through to fix this problem, right? And it's simply meditating. So, and meditating in not the traditional sense. It could be, but it's not necessary. So other than that would be the advice for that. So don't worry about it being common or not. It's very common. People are in our heads, especially in today's society, so much crap going on, right? Anyway, here's the summary of this whole thing. Be consistent. Define what it is that makes you a leader. Define what it is, what a leader is in your eyes, right? Find out what all these things are to you, right? And be clear, be crystal clear on your goals, be crystal clear on what a leader is, be crystal clear on what a good friend is, what a good spouse is, or what a good relationship partner is, what intimacy is. The more crystal clear you are on these things, and the better it's going to be. One thing I struggled with, and I told you this, was that I'm looking at my phone because I'm pulling this thing up. It's this app, right? And I struggle with relationships with people in general, right? So I got this app on my phone that teaches me how to be better with people and be better in my romantic life, right? And so I go through these little lessons and they teach me things like little drills, right? Little things that I can be better at. So it's like, hey, the reason why you do this is this. I'm like, wow, that's pretty obvious. Oh, dang, they got me nailed down. Like, yeah, that's true, right? I'm not the exception. I'm quite similar to a lot of other people who struggle with the same things. So, long story short is you have to set clarity, right? And again, I'm going to end this video with this request. If you guys are going through something in your life that you are unsatisfied with, completely and utterly unsatisfied, I want you to email me a video or a text based email and tell me what's going on. Okay. And I want you guys to send me your story in these 4 bullet points. Now, granted, you can write a lot more, but cover these 4 things: what it is that you're unsatisfied with, how you got there, your plan to get out, and the evaluation of your plan. I don't know if this plan is great or not, but this is currently what I'm doing. Because if you do that, that is going to help me look at the bigger picture here, and it's going to help me, but it's also going to help you, because you're turning into this self-analysis now, and not in a negative way, but actually analyzing where this problem comes from and your ability to figure out a solution for it. So that being said, I am going to end this live stream now, and we're going to go I'm probably going to do a goal setting live stream at some point pretty soon, not today, but and talk about how we're going to set some crystal clear goals. And it's important that you guys do this. You set some goals, and whether they're financial, whether they're anything, I'm going to try to bring you guys along for the ride for this, because this is not going to be typology. It's not going to be about typology. I'm so over the typology community. It's like, I get it, and typology is great, and I don't think it's a problem, but I think it's a means to an end, right? And the end is self-development, right? And getting better, using typology as a tool, yes. So using typology as a tool to get to know yourself, yes. And that's it. I'm not going to spend my life researching typologies. Some of you are, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm a personal development guy, right? I'm really focused on developing yourself financially. I'm focused on getting you to be developed emotionally and relationship wise. And I say you as in me, myself, and everyone else, right? So in process of helping other people, I'm helping myself, and there's a lot to learn still, but that's what it's about for me. All right. So I'm not going to sit here and talk about INTPs, and there's so many channels, so many people out there that are putting out content on it, and I'm not giving up on it. There's still some interesting things and points, and I'll use it, I'll reference it, because it's a tool, right? That's what we did this for. And I clarified that, because when I typed people, that's what we came up with. If you want to hang out and argue with people about what functions are, sure. If you want to argue about different systems and tell them which one's better, sure, if that's what you want to do. But when you have crystal clear goals, you're not going to waste your time arguing with people that don't align with your goals, right? So if your goal is that you want to be fit and in shape, and you're watching a bunch of exercise videos and you're watching a bunch of motivational videos, commenting on someone's typology video because they don't understand what FI is that really contributing to your goal? No. Is it fun? Okay. If you enjoy it and you find it fun, sure. Okay, great. That's fine. If you're enjoying it, it's for entertainment. So keep that in mind as you're doing these things. What's contributing? Now, you want a little bit of entertainment, you want to relax, and if your goal is to relax, fine. But setting crystal clear goals so you stop doing things that are actually contrary to your goal. Because I'll tell you what, most good leaders aren't going to waste their time critiquing and criticizing other people's YouTube videos. That's to me, it's childish. But if people post a crappy video, fine. You don't have to like it. You don't have to watch it. You don't have to deal with it. You just go let that person develop, right? Now, if you have good feedback and you're respectful to that person and you think you can help that person, that's a different thing. So that's a totally different aspect, right? If you think you can be helpful and respectful to that person, that's a leadership quality, right? But maybe they don't want your advice. Maybe they're not in a place to receive your advice. You need to figure that out too, right? So it might be okay to ask permission, right? Hey, do you mind if I ask you a few questions to figure out what it is you're trying to do? I'd like to help. Hey, have you thought about doing it this way? Well, okay. See, there's a respectful way to do this, and there's a shitty way to do this. And so it's about leadership, right? And you are the leader of your own life. You are leading you, and that's the most important person to lead. And if you suck at leading you, you're going to suck at leading other people, right? So lead yourself, be in control of your own life, and do what you need to do. And maybe, so keep that in mind. Now I'm going to look through these comments real quick, and it says, So chores, a bunch of stuff here. I saw your video earlier, not limiting yourself to MBTI, and it really helped me because I was stuck in the stereotype of seeing what a certain type was good at in life. Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I'm glad the videos certainly can help you. It's the kind of person that, you're the kind of person that this channel's for. This channel probably not for some people. So if you see STPs, let's see. Anthony said, why Lincoln? Well, for me, it was just a random example, right? He's considered one of the greatest leaders of in time, right? And he's also considered one of the greatest presidents of all time. That's opinion, right? The point is, if people are considering him that great, then people are seeing leadership qualities, right? That's what that's about. It's an opinion. Yeah. I mean, who can really say who's the greatest, right? But people are seeing leadership qualities. So it was another example that stood out. And it's what popped in my mind when I was bringing it up. Again, being an extrovert, I just spit out whatever the hell's in my head before I even think it thoroughly. I don't even have a script. It's all ad-libbed, right? It's coming out of my head, talking to myself. It's kind of weird, actually. So, yeah, be clear on what you're looking to do. And personally, I'm making a goal this year, just to share this with you guys. I'm making a goal this year that I am personally going to spend time working with people that have a need, right? And that need requires my mentorship. So I'm going to be selective in who I'm working for, but I'm actually giving out my mentorship this year. And so I'll be very selective in this process, but I'm limiting myself to 4 people I'm working with at this point due to time constraint, right? So, but I will be very interested in working with 4 particular people who are interested in becoming leaders. So in the meantime, I will keep my eyes out and see what's out there, see what's going on. But I still want to hear from everyone on the emails. I still want to hear all the stories, the things that you guys are struggling with, things like that, where you guys are, again, the 4 things that I want in the email, right? What you're struggling with, how you got there, what your plan is to fix it, and your evaluation of that plan. If you can send that in the email, that'll be great, right? Anthony, what of improving networking? So I'm not sure what you mean by that, but if you can clarify, I'll answer that. Just make sure you do it rather quickly because I'm about to end this stream here in a second. As far as types, types are great. I'm a big fan of particularly typology. I do like it, and I want to be clear that it's not a bad thing. I just think it's a tool, right? It's a tool that you need to learn, and I've made hundreds of videos on it. So it's not like there's not a lot of content on it. And that's just me. There's plenty of other videos out there too. And a lot of the crap I said in the beginning is wrong anyway. So you need to put together a concept of what you think it is and how it relates to you, and then move forward if you're looking to become a better leader, right? So anyway, question is what? Well, I don't know. INTP Paul, you said you were like, it looked like you were about to define what he meant by networking, and then it looks like you gave up on the idea. Can't read your name, but some characters, right? I'd love to know how INFPs could be effective with their TE to improve their leadership. Not all INFPs are bad with TE, right? It's just a function that doesn't work in the conscious mind very well, right? It happens unconsciously. They don't have a lot of control over what's going on with it, but more importantly, it's their Achilles heel, right? Doesn't mean that it's TE is going to lead to leadership, right? Balance is going to be what creates leadership. So, yeah, I know it's Japanese. I just didn't want to go there because if I was, the chance of me being wrong wasn't even worth it, right? I mean, I could have said Japanese. It could have offended somebody. So, but I thought it was Japanese. That was my guess, but it was educated. So anyway, point is, guys, yes, TE, you can be an INFP and you can improve your TE. And yeah, if you're more balanced, sure, you're going to be more an effective leader, but it's really about getting the skills, guys. When you're talking about leadership, it's not about improving your functions. Your functions will improve as you targeting that skill. This is the biggest pain in the ass when we talk about typology, right? This is a pain in the ass because everybody's like, how do I get better TE? Well, what the freak are you talking about, right? Are you categorizing a series of activities in the that a series of activities that are like TE oriented? Are you talking about Excel spreadsheets? Because the reality is, if you want to get better at Excel spreadsheets, you practice Excel spreadsheets. If you want to get better at organizing, you take a class at organizing. I don't understand why we're always thinking about these functions and how to get better at the functions, right? Now, the reality is that if you are a certain type and your daemon function or your bottom level function, right, is your bottom level function. In the case of an INFP, your TE is the bottom, right? Then you're going to not enjoy those activities that require that function, right? That require that function to be used. You're going to find another way to use it, but it may not be very enjoyable for you because it's operating in more of, let's say, a stress state. That's the term I'm going to use. Now, is that proper? Probably not, but it's a stress state, right? You're doing something that's not fully conscious. So you're trying to force out this, put a conscious effort in something that's really not fun for you. Really, it's unconscious, right? So that's what I mean. Like, it's probably not something you're really going to want to do, right? So breaking it down, you got to look at it like a series of skills, not a series of functions. Like, oh man, today I'm going to work on TE. Well, what the hell are you talking about? Well, today I'm going to work on FI. Well, what does that mean, right? You can pick a particular thing. Like today, I'm going to spend more time with myself, and maybe that will be more FI oriented, right? Jason, the answer is probably not. Okay. Unfortunately, we had an Enneagram 7 video a long time ago, and it was edited, it was created, and somehow it got deleted. And it was with the remainder of the series. And the challenge is that, Enneagram is a tool for spirituality more than anything, right? It's ego illusion is what Enneagram is about. Enneagram is a negative thing, right? Enneagram, if you're associated with an Enneagram type, it's a negative thing. And that's what it was originally made for. And somehow pop culture turned it into this cool thing. Like, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a this. Well, it's like, I'm a dick. Yeah, no, I'm an asshole. Yeah, right. So, but the thing about Enneagram is really, it's a tool for you to recognize where your ego dysfunction is, and then you go fix it, right? And that's what Enneagram is. And so I'm not teaching spirituality right now. Part of it is because I would probably make a new channel for it. I mean, spirituality is a subject that a lot of people who are my viewers, they don't really want to hear about the spiritual stuff. That's the reality of it. I'm going to listen to my audience, right? So I'll probably create a separate channel about spirituality. A lot of them do like to hear that stuff, but a lot of them don't. Historically, my spirituality videos, either I sucked at presenting it, which is likely, or they just didn't like the existential esoteric split, right? So, and plus, spirituality is very subjective to a lot of people, and it's very personal to a lot of people. And I couldn't really provide any objective advice. And as a kind of an objective person, I feel it might be better to refrain from that subject for now. I think there'll be a point where I'll get into that direction. But so the answer to that long answer to your question, no, I probably will not make an Enneagram 7 video. The answer to, isn't MBTI also ego? Sort of. Not exactly. It's more about processing and perception and decision making than it is ego fixation. Enneagram is inevitable. Yeah. Yeah. So I think it is. I think we all are born and then we develop an ego, and we have a choice to realize that we aren't the ego. We aren't what we create, right? Should every type seek their inferior function? Seek, I don't know about that word, but every type should recognize that it's a function that causes them stress, and they should learn how to balance. Jason, yes. The Sumerian tablets. Yep, sure have. Looked a lot into that a while back. I looked into how they translate. I looked into the stories and kind of how they parallel with other religions. So yeah, I did look into that, and I thought it was pretty interesting, and I studied it for a while. So certainly a topic for another video. But yeah, definitely did that. So that's it for tonight, guys. I'm going to wrap this up. A lot of stuff to do. But anyway, send me the email. Send me the requirements. Send me the stuff I asked. If you're on this live stream, you don't have to, but I'd really like to see it. It's also going to help me get to know you more. And Angela, I definitely expect it from you. So, send that there out there. You've sent me an email before, and you said you needed my help with something, I think. So if you can, shoot that email out. And we'll go from there. So other than that, everybody take care. Have a good night.